She had $10, a jacket with holes in both sleeves, and 30 minutes before the last shelter in downtown Chicago closed its doors for the night. When 16-year-old Aliyah Carter found a dying woman collapsed in the snow on Christmas Eve, she could have kept walking. She could have saved herself. Instead, she gave up her only jacket, wrapped the stranger in her trembling arms, and sang hymns through hours of brutal cold, knowing she was sacrificing her last chance at survival. By dawn, they were both nearly frozen to death. But when the woman's son arrived, Chicago's most feared mafia boss, he found something that would shatter everything he believed about power. A homeless black teenager was holding his mother, refusing to let her die alone. What happened next? Nobody could have predicted it. This is the true story of one frozen Christmas Eve that brought together three impossible lives. A ruthless crime lord, his dying mother, and a girl the world had made invisible. It's a story about redemption, about what happens when absolute power meets absolute compassion, and how sometimes the person who saves your mother ends up saving your soul. Stay with me because by the end of this story, you'll never look at Grace the same way again. Welcome to Dark Heart Mafia. While you're here, hit that subscribe button and comment where you're watching from and what redemption means to you. Let me tell you about a night that changed everything. A night so cold it felt like the city itself had turned to ice. This is a story about choices, about darkness and light, and about how one moment can transform not just one life, but many. Picture this, Chicago, Christmas Eve. The kind of winter night where the wind off Lake Michigan cuts through you like a blade. The kind of night when most people hurry to their families, lock their doors, and thank whatever God they believe in that they have somewhere warm to be. But not everyone has that luxury. Her name was Aliyah Carter, and she was 16 years old. Just 16. At an age when most teenagers are thinking about winter formal and college applications, Aliyah was thinking about where she'd sleep that night and whether she'd wake up in the morning. She'd been on her own since she was 15, when her grandmother, the only family she had left after her parents died in an apartment fire, passed away from pneumonia in a county hospital. 1 year of moving from shelter to shelter, sleeping in 24-hour diners when she could nurse a coffee for hours, sometimes finding a warm spot in subway stations until security moved her along. That's how it works when you're young and black and homeless. You learn to be invisible. You learn to disappear. That Christmas Eve, Aliyah had exactly $10 in her pocket. The group shelter on West Madison had a bed available, but only until 9 o'clock. After that, they locked the doors. No exceptions. It was 8:27, and she was a 15-minute walk away through the Loop, past all the expensive stores with their window displays of perfect families celebrating perfect Christmases. She walked quickly, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air, her thin jacket doing almost nothing against the wind. The holes in both sleeves let the cold straight through to her skin. Millennium Park was nearly empty, just a few tourists taking photos of the big Christmas tree and the ice rink. Nobody looked at Aliyah. That's what invisibility felt like. You could be dying right there on the sidewalk, and people would step over you to get to their dinner reservations. She'd learned that the hard way. She was cutting through the side streets near the Gold Coast, trying to shave a few minutes off her walk, when she heard it. A sound so faint she almost missed it. A voice, weak and confused, calling out in the darkness. Every instinct Aliyah had told her to keep walking. Getting involved with other people's problems when you looked like her, when you had no address and no one to vouch for you, that was dangerous. That was the kind of thing that got you arrested or worse. She checked her phone. 8:34. If she stopped, if she took even 5 minutes to investigate, she'd miss her bed. She'd be on the streets all night in -5-degree weather. But the voice called out again, and Aliyah found herself walking toward it. Near the service entrance of a massive luxury high-rise, she found her. An elderly white woman, maybe 70, elegant even in distress, collapsed against the building's stone foundation. She was wearing an expensive wool coat, but her feet were bare except for bedroom slippers, and her silver hair hung wild around her face. She was clutching her chest, her breathing shallow and labored, her lips already turning blue from the cold. Aliyah dropped to her knees beside the woman. "Ma'am, can you hear me? What's wrong?" The woman's eyes fluttered open, clouded with pain and confusion. Can't breathe, she whispered. My chest. Please, help me. Aliyah recognized those signs. Her grandmother had died of a heart attack in the end, though they'd called it pneumonia because she'd been too poor for proper cardiac care. This woman was having a cardiac episode. She was dying. Aliyah pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her hands shook as she gave the address, described the symptoms. The dispatcher told her an ambulance was on the way, but with the Christmas Eve snow and ice, it might be 20 minutes. Maybe 30. Aliyah looked at her phone. 8:38. The shelter closed in 22 minutes. She looked at the woman, whose eyes were closing, whose breathing was getting weaker, and Aliyah made her choice. She took off her jacket, the only thing standing between her and hypothermia, and wrapped it around the woman's shoulders. Then she sat down on the freezing concrete, pulled the woman against her chest, and wrapped her arms around her. Stay with me, Aliyah whispered. Don't you dare give up. Not on Christmas Eve. Not alone. The woman's eyes opened slightly. Who are you? My name's Aliyah. What's yours? Angela. The woman breathed. Angela Moretti. Okay, Miss Angela. I'm gonna stay right here with you until help comes. I'm not leaving you. But you'll freeze, Angela said, a moment of clarity breaking through the pain. I'll be okay, Aliyah lied. I'm tougher than I look. Time moved differently after that. Minutes felt like hours. Aliyah's body started shaking violently within 10 minutes, her teeth chattering so hard she thought they might crack. The wind picked up, driving snow into their faces. She pulled Angela closer, trying to share what little body heat she had left. She started singing, partly to keep Angela conscious, partly to keep herself from giving in to the cold that was seeping into her bones. Silent night, holy night. Aliyah sang, her voice shaking. All is calm, all is bright. Angela stirred against her. Beautiful voice, she murmured. My grandma taught me, Aliyah said. She said music was prayer when you didn't have words left. Smart woman. She was the best. Angela's hand found Aliyah's. Where is she now? Heaven, I hope. She died last year. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Me too. They sat like that, two strangers holding each other in the freezing darkness. As the minutes crawled by, 9 o'clock came and went. The shelter was locked now. Aliyah had given up her bed, her warmth, her safety, for a woman she didn't know, for a stranger who might not even survive. But Aliyah couldn't have made any other choice. Her grandmother had taught her that you're measured by what you do when it costs you everything. That's when your real character shows, Grandma Rose used to say. When helping someone means sacrificing yourself. Angela drifted in and out of consciousness. During one lucid moment, around 9:30, she looked up at Aliyah with sudden clarity. You gave up something important to stay with me, didn't you? Aliyah didn't answer. I can see it in your eyes, Angela said. What did it cost you? Doesn't matter, Aliyah said. You needed help. My son, Angela whispered. He needs to know there are still good people in this world. He's forgotten. The life he leads, it's made him forget. What does your son do? Angela's eyes clouded again. Things I wish he didn't. Things that break my heart. Before Aliyah could ask what she meant, Angela's breathing became more labored. Aliyah held her tighter, singing another hymn, praying the ambulance would come soon. Meanwhile, across the city, Salvatore Moretti was sitting in his penthouse office in the Hancock building, looking out at the Chicago skyline, when his phone rang. The screen showed Marco, his most trusted capo. Salvatore almost didn't answer. It was Christmas Eve, and he'd promised his mother he'd come by early, bring her to midnight mass like they used to do before his father died. Before Salvatore had inherited an empire built on fear and blood money. What is it, Marco? Boss, we have a problem. Marco's voice was tight with panic. It's your mother. Salvatore was on his feet instantly, his heart suddenly pounding. What happened? The caretaker called. Mrs. Moretti slipped out during her bathroom break. She's been gone for over an hour. Boss, it's 5 below zero out there. The world seemed to tilt. His mother had been having episodes lately, moments of confusion, wandering. The doctors said it was early-stage dementia, manageable with supervision. But if she was out there in this weather, alone and confused, "Get every man we have on the street," Salvatore said. His voice deadly calm in the way it only got when he was truly terrified. "Find her. Now." He was in his car within 2 minutes, Marco in the passenger seat, racing through the snowy streets. They'd put out calls to every crew, every associate. Within 15 minutes, they had 40 men searching the Gold Coast, Lincoln Park, everywhere his mother might have wandered. Salvatore's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. His mother was his weakness, the one person in this world he truly loved. The only connection he had to the man he'd been before his father's murder had forced him into this life. Antonio Moretti had been Chicago's most feared crime boss, and he'd raised Salvatore to be hard, ruthless, to see compassion as weakness. But Angela Moretti had tried to teach her son something different. She tried to show him that power without mercy was just tyranny, that strength without kindness was just cruelty. Salvatore had spent 20 years trying to reconcile those two versions of himself. The man his father demanded he be, and the man his mother hoped he could become. Tonight, as he raced through the freezing streets, he prayed he'd get the chance to try again. At 9:47, one of his men radioed in. "Boss, we found her. Corner of Rush and Oak. She's alive, but what?" Salvatore demanded. A pause. "There's someone with her, boss. Kid. Looks homeless." Salvatore's blood went cold for a different reason. "A setup? I don't know, boss, but you need to see this." Salvatore's convoy of black SUVs descended on the location within minutes. He was out of his car before it fully stopped, his men fanning out around him, hands inside their coats where their weapons were. The street was empty except for the pool of light from a security lamp, and in that light, Salvatore saw something that stopped him dead. His mother, wrapped in a cheap jacket full of holes, was being held by a young black girl who couldn't have been more than 16. The girl was shaking violently from the cold, her arms still wrapped protectively around Angela, her eyes squeezed shut as she sang softly. The snow had accumulated on both of them, making them look like frozen statues. They were dying. Both of them were dying. "Mom!" Salvatore rushed forward, and the girl's eyes flew open. The fear in them was instant and absolute. She knew who he was, or at least she knew what he was. You don't survive on the streets without learning to recognize dangerous men. "Please," the girl said, her voice shaking from more than just cold. "She needs a hospital. I called 911, but they're not here yet. Please help her." Salvatore dropped to his knees beside his mother. "Mom, can you hear me?" Angela's eyes fluttered open. "Salvatore." Her voice was so weak. "This girl. She saved me. She stayed." Salvatore looked at the girl properly for the first time. She was hypothermic, that was obvious. Her lips were blue, her skin had that waxy quality that meant she was in the dangerous stages of exposure. But she was still holding his mother, still trying to keep her warm. "Who are you?" Salvatore demanded. "Who sent you?" "Nobody sent me," the girl said. "I found her. She was dying. I couldn't just leave her." Marco appeared at Salvatore's shoulder. "Boss," he said quietly, "this could be a setup. We need to secure the area, and we need to handle the girl. She's a witness." Salvatore heard what Marco wasn't saying. Handle the girl meant eliminate the threat. It meant making sure she couldn't identify them, couldn't talk. It was standard protocol. It was what his father would have done without hesitation. But then Salvatore saw the jacket. The cheap, torn jacket his mother was wearing. And he realized the girl wasn't wearing anything except a thin long-sleeve shirt. In -5-degree weather, she'd given his mother her only protection from the cold. "Why would you do this?" Salvatore asked. "You don't know her. You could have died." "She needed help," the girl said simply. "And I was here." Angela stirred. "Salvatore," she whispered, "don't hurt her, please. She gave up everything for me." In the distance, sirens finally wailed. The ambulance was coming. Salvatore stood, pulling off his own coat and wrapping it around the girl. She flinched at his touch, terrified. "Marco," Salvatore said. "Call Dr. Russo. Tell him to meet us at Northwestern. Both of them go in my car." "Boss," Marco said carefully. The girl comes with us," Salvatore said, his voice carrying the tone that meant the discussion was over. "She saved my mother's life. Nobody touches her." The EMTs arrived and loaded Angela onto a stretcher, but she kept reaching for the girl. "Don't leave her," Angela kept saying. "Don't let her go back out there alone." "I won't, Mom," Salvatore promised. "I won't." At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Angela was rushed to the ICU for cardiac monitoring and treatment. The girl, Aliyah, was taken to the ER for severe hypothermia. Salvatore stood between both rooms, feeling more helpless than he had since his father's funeral. Dr. Russo, who'd been the Moretti family physician for 30 years and knew better than to ask questions, examined both patients. He came out to where Salvatore was pacing the hallway. "Your mother is stable," he said. "Mild heart attack complicated by hypothermia and exposure. She'll need monitoring for a few days, but she should make a full recovery." Salvatore felt something in his chest unclench. "And the girl? She was maybe 2 hours from death," Dr. Russo said quietly. "Another hour out there, she wouldn't have made it. She sacrificed herself for your mother." After the doctors finished treating Aliyah, she tried to leave. She knew the drill. Thank the nice people, then disappear before questions got complicated. But when she tried to slip out of her room, she found 2 large men in dark suits standing outside her door. Not guards keeping people out, guards keeping her in. Terror flooded through her. She'd been stupid to think this would end well. These men, whoever they weren't just wealthy. They were dangerous, and she could identify them. She'd seen their faces, their cars. She knew too much. The door opened and the man from the street walked in. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that looked like they'd seen things that would break most people. He wore a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than everything Aliyah had ever owned in her life. "Sit down," he said. It wasn't a request. Aliyah sat on the edge of the hospital bed, her hands shaking. "I won't tell anyone what I saw. Promise. I don't even know what I saw. Just please let me go." "Where will you go?" he asked. "I'll figure something out. I always do. You're 16 years old and you were about to freeze to death on the street. I know how old I am, and I know what my life is. You don't have to remind me." Salvatore pulled a chair over and sat down, which somehow made him less intimidating. "Slightly. Tell me your name." "Aliyah. Aliyah Carter." "Aliyah, I'm Salvatore Moretti. The woman you saved is my mother, Angela. Is she okay?" "She will be. Because of you." He leaned forward. "Why did you do it? You gave up your jacket. You missed getting into that shelter. You nearly died. Why?" Aliyah looked at him for a long moment. "Because someone needed help and I was there. Isn't that reason enough? In my world? No. In my world, everything has a price. Everything is a transaction. Nobody does something for nothing." "Then your world is broken," Aliyah said quietly. Salvatore sat back, something flickering across his face that might have been surprise. "You don't know who I am, do you? I know you're dangerous. I know your men wanted to handle me. I know how this usually goes for people like me." "People like you?" "Young, black, homeless, in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm not stupid. I've seen how the world works." There was a long silence. Then Salvatore said, "You're right. Usually, this is where I'd make sure you couldn't talk about what you saw. That's the smart play. The safe play." Aliyah's heart hammered in her chest. "But," Salvatore continued, "my mother is in the room next door because you sacrificed everything to keep her alive. So I'm going to do something I never do. I'm going to trust someone." He stood up. "I'm offering you protection. An apartment. Money. Whatever you need to get off the streets." "What's the price?" Aliyah asked. "Why do you assume there's a price?" "Because you just said everything's a transaction in your world." Salvatore almost smiled. "Smart girl. The price is this: you disappear from your old life. You let me protect you. And you don't ask questions about what I do or who I am. And if I say no, then you walk out of here with $200 in your pocket and we never see each other again. Your choice. Aliyah studied him. He was telling the truth, she could sense that. But she also sensed there was more to this than simple gratitude. This man was complicated, conflicted, dangerous but not evil. At least not entirely. Can I see her? Your mother. Salvatore looked surprised. Why? Because I sat with her for 2 hours singing hymns and holding her hand. I'd like to know she's really okay. This time Salvatore did smile, just slightly. Follow me. In the ICU, Angela was awake, propped up on pillows, looking pale but alert. When she saw Aliyah, her face lit up. There's my angel, Angela said, reaching out her hand. Come here, sweetheart. Aliyah took her hand. How are you feeling? Alive, thanks to you. Angela looked at her son. Salvatore? Did you thank her properly? I'm working on it, Mom. Work faster. Angela turned back to Aliyah. He told me you're homeless, that you gave up your bed to stay with me. It's okay. I'm okay. No, it's not okay. Angela's voice was firm despite her weakness. Salvatore, this girl saved my life. I want you to take care of her. I offered her protection, Mom. I want more than protection. I want her to have a real chance. A life. Do you understand me? Mother and son stared at each other, and Aliyah saw something pass between them. Some old argument, some old pain. Finally, Salvatore nodded. I understand. Angela squeezed Aliyah's hand. Will you let him help you, sweetheart? I know my son is intimidating. I know his world is dark. But he's a good man under all that armor. Let him do this good thing. Aliyah looked between them, at Angela, who'd seen something worth saving in her own son despite everything. At Salvatore, who looked like he was trying to figure out how to be human again. And Aliyah thought about her grandmother's words. Sometimes the people we help end up helping us. Sometimes grace flows both ways. Okay, Aliyah said quietly. I'll accept your help. What Aliyah didn't know was that Marco had been right to be worried. Word had spread through Chicago's underworld that Salvatore Moretti had a soft spot. And soft spots were weaknesses. Weaknesses could be exploited. The Calabrese family, who'd been looking for an opening to move against the Morettis for years, heard about the homeless girl Salvatore was protecting, and they started making plans. But that first night, none of that mattered. That first night, Salvatore moved Aliyah into a secure apartment above one of his legitimate restaurants in River North. It wasn't charity that motivated him, not entirely. It was the look in his mother's eyes when she'd said, "Is this who you've become?" It was the realization that he'd been about to order the death of a 16-year-old girl whose only crime was compassion. It was the uncomfortable recognition that somewhere along the way, in building his empire, he'd lost something essential. And maybe, just maybe, this girl who'd given everything for a stranger could help him find it again. Over the next few weeks, a strange new routine developed. Aliyah started online classes for her GED, met with a therapist who specialized in trauma, and slowly began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have a future. Salvatore visited his mother every day in the care facility where she was recovering, and Aliyah often joined him. Angela loved having them both there, loved seeing her son softening around the edges. Tell me about your grandmother, Angela said to Aliyah one afternoon. So Aliyah talked about Grandma Rose, about her laugh and her faith and her absolute conviction that kindness mattered more than survival. She used to say that we're judged by who we help when it costs us everything, Aliyah said. I never really understood what she meant until that night. Angela reached for Salvatore's hand. Your father used to say that mercy was weakness, that compassion would get you killed in this world. She looked at her son. He was wrong. Look at what Aliyah's compassion created. She saved my life. She saved yours too, in a different way. Mom, listen to me. You've been dead inside for years, Salvatore. Going through the motions. Building an empire but losing your soul. This girl reminded you what it means to be human. Don't waste that gift. That night, as Salvatore drove Aliyah back to her apartment, she asked the question she'd been holding back. What exactly do you do? Your mother keeps saying things about your world and your life. What does that mean? Salvatore was quiet for a long time. I run a family business. Has been in my family for 3 generations. What kind of business? The kind where people pay for protection, where disputes are settled outside the legal system, where power matters more than law. Aliyah absorbed this. You're in the mafia. That's an outdated term. But essentially, yes. And you hurt people. I do what's necessary to protect my interests and my people. That's not an answer. Salvatore pulled the car over, turned to face her. You want the truth? Yes. I've hurt people. I've done things I'm not proud of. Things that keep me awake at night. Things my mother doesn't know about because they'd break her heart. I'm not a good man, Aliyah. I'm a necessary evil in a system that's been operating for 100 years. Do you want to be better? The question hit him like a physical blow. What? Do you want to be better? Or are you just going through the motions because your mother wants you to change? Salvatore stared at her. This 16-year-old girl who'd been homeless a month ago was asking him the question he'd been avoiding for 20 years. I don't know, he said finally. I don't know if I can be better. This life, it changes you. The things I've done, there's no coming back from that. My grandma used to say that grace means you can always come back. It's never too late to choose differently. Your grandmother never met someone like me. Maybe that's exactly why I met you, Aliyah said. Maybe that's why I was there that night. Not just to save your mother. Maybe to save you too. Salvatore didn't know what to say to that. So he just drove, and they sat in silence, and something shifted in the air between them. But the Calabrese family was watching, and they were planning, and on a cold January night, they made their move. Aliyah was walking home from the library, her security detail trailing discreetly behind her, when a van pulled up. 4 men jumped out. They'd planned for the security, had brought enough firepower to overwhelm them. It was supposed to be quick. Grab the girl, send Moretti a message. But what they hadn't planned for was how loud Aliyah would scream, how fiercely she'd fight, how much attention that would draw. And they hadn't planned for Salvatore himself to be 3 blocks away, visiting one of his properties. He heard the shots, heard the screaming, and he knew. He just knew. When he arrived, his men had killed 2 of the attackers. The other 2 had fled. And Aliyah was sitting on the sidewalk, shaking, unhurt but terrified. Salvatore knelt beside her. Are you okay? Did they touch you? I'm fine. Your men, they saved me. But Salvatore, they said they were going to use me to make you weak. You're not making me weak, Salvatore said. Though even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. She was making him weak. Or maybe she was making him human again. He wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. That night, back at the apartment, Aliyah made a decision. I can't do this, she said. I can't be the reason people try to hurt you. I can't be responsible for your men getting killed protecting me. You're not responsible. Yes, I am. Your world is dangerous, and I'm making it more dangerous. Let me go. Give me some money to start over somewhere else. I'll disappear. No, Salvatore. I said no. He stood up, ran his hand through his hair. You want to know why? Because my mother is right. You are making me different. You're making me question everything I've built. And yes, that's dangerous. Yes, that's making my enemies bold. But for the first time in 20 years, I'm asking myself if maybe there's another way to live. What way? I don't know yet, but I know I can't figure it out if you're gone. He looked at her. You saved my mother's life. Let me save yours. Please. Aliyah looked at this man, this complicated, dangerous, wounded man, and she saw something of herself in him. Both of them were trying to survive in a world that wanted them dead. Both of them were trying to find meaning in the wreckage. Okay, she said, but things have to change. I can't just hide in this apartment forever. I need a life. What do you want? I want to finish school. I want to go to college. I want to help other kids like me, kids who fell through the cracks. And I want you to find a way to do your business that doesn't require hurting people. Salvatore laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You're asking me to dismantle everything my family built. I'm asking you to build something better. And if I can't, then I'll leave. Because I can't watch someone I care about destroy himself. The words hung in the air. Someone I care about. When had that happened? When had this strange, forced proximity turned into actual connection? But it had. Somehow, the mafia boss and the homeless teen had become each other's lifeline. Angela's health continued to improve, but her dementia was progressing. She had good days and bad days. On her good days, she'd sit with both Salvatore and Aliyah and talk about the future. On her bad days, she'd forget who they were entirely, lost in memories of when Salvatore was young, before his father's darkness had consumed their family. One afternoon in late spring, during one of her clear moments, Angela called them both to her bedside. I need to tell you something, she said. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months, maybe a year. The dementia is spreading. Mom, Salvatore started. Let me finish. I need to say this while I still can. She looked at Aliyah. Sweetheart, you saved my life that night. But more than that, you saved my son's soul. I've watched him change these past months. I've seen him question his choices. I've seen him try to be better. That's because of you. Angela. And Salvatore. Angela turned to her son. I've lived with guilt for 20 years, knowing what kind of man your father was, knowing what he made you become. But I also know the boy you were. The boy who cried when we had to take a sick bird to the vet. The boy who gave his lunch money to homeless people. That boy is still inside you. Aliyah saw him. And I need you to promise me something. Anything, Mom. Take care of each other. You saved each other's lives. Now save each other's souls. Make something good out of this broken world. Promise me. They both promised. And Angela smiled and closed her eyes. She died 2 months later, on a warm July evening, with both of them holding her hands. It was peaceful. It was everything a death could be when surrounded by love. At the funeral, the criminal underworld showed up in force, all the families paying respects. But so did the priests from the church Angela had attended for 50 years. So did the nurses from the care facility who'd loved her. So did a homeless woman named Sarah who Angela had been secretly feeding for a decade. Aliyah gave one of the eulogies. She talked about a woman she'd known for only 6 months but who'd changed her life completely. She talked about grace and second chances. She talked about how Angela had taught her that family wasn't blood. It was choice. And when she was done, she saw something she'd never seen before. Salvatore Moretti, the most feared man in Chicago, was crying. After the funeral at the cemetery, it was just the two of them standing by the grave. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. She was right, you know, Salvatore said. About everything. About me being dead inside. About you bringing me back to life. I didn't do anything special. You showed me that there was another way to live. You showed me that compassion isn't weakness. He turned to her. I've made a decision. I'm stepping back from the family business. Transitioning everything to legitimate operations. It'll take years and it'll be dangerous. But I'm done being the man my father created. What will you do? I'm going to start a foundation. In my mother's name. For kids like you, kids who got lost in the system. Housing, education, support. Everything you needed and didn't get. That's beautiful. I want you to help run it. Once you finish school. Once you're ready. You have the perspective I'll never have. You know what those kids need. Aliyah looked at the gravestone. Angela Moretti. Beloved mother, woman of faith, believer in second chances. She'd be proud of you, Aliyah said. She'd be proud of both of us. They stood there as the sun set, two people from impossible worlds who'd found each other on the worst night of their lives and had somehow created something beautiful from it. 2 years later, Aliyah Carter stood on a stage at her high school graduation, valedictorian of her class, with a full scholarship to Northwestern to study social work. In the audience sat Salvatore Moretti, next to Marco and several other men in suits who didn't look like they belonged at a high school graduation but who'd insisted on coming anyway. Because Aliyah was family now. Not by blood, but by something stronger. By choice. By grace. By the unbreakable bond forged on one frozen Christmas Eve when a homeless girl chose compassion over survival. The Angela Moretti Foundation had opened its doors 6 months earlier. It already housed 23 kids, provided education support for 40 more, and was expanding every month. Salvatore's business empire was 70% legitimate now, and he'd quietly divested from the most violent operations. There were people who called him soft. There were people who said he'd lost his edge. Let them talk. He'd found something more valuable than fear. He'd found purpose. After the ceremony, as the sun set on another Chicago evening, they drove to the cemetery. It had become their tradition. Every major milestone, they'd visit Angela's grave and tell her about it. She would have loved today, Aliyah said, placing flowers on the headstone. She loved you, Salvatore said. She saw what I couldn't see, that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. Do you ever regret it? Changing everything? Every single day, Salvatore admitted. And every single day, I know it was the right choice. As they walked back to the car, Aliyah's phone buzzed. It was one of the kids from the foundation, a girl named Maria who just aged out of foster care and was scared about what came next. I need to take this, Aliyah said. Go ahead. Aliyah answered the call. Maria? Hey, it's okay. I know you're scared. I was exactly where you are. But you're not alone anymore. Come by tomorrow and we'll figure it out together. I promise you, you don't have to do this by yourself. Salvatore listened to her voice, so warm and certain, offering the kind of support she'd never received herself. And he understood finally what his mother had been trying to teach him. That grace wasn't just receiving mercy you didn't deserve. It was offering that same mercy to others. It was choosing to see the humanity in broken people and helping them put themselves back together. That Christmas Eve, 2 years after the night that changed everything, Salvatore and Aliyah volunteered at a homeless shelter, serving dinner to people who'd been where Aliyah had been. As they worked side by side, dishing out food and offering warm words, Salvatore realized something profound. His father had taught him that power came from fear, from control, from the ability to hurt your enemies. But his mother had taught him something different, and Aliyah had shown him it was true. Real power came from protecting the vulnerable, from choosing mercy over vengeance, from building something that helped people instead of hurting them. He'd spent 20 years as a king of darkness. But in one frozen night, a homeless girl with nothing but compassion in her heart had shown him there was another way, a better way. The snow started falling as they left the shelter that night. Gentle this time, beautiful instead of deadly. They walked to Salvatore's car, and as Aliyah reached for the door, she paused. You know what today is? She asked. The anniversary. 2 years ago, I was dying on a street corner, holding your mother, thinking it was the end. And look at us now. Look at us now, Salvatore echoed. They drove home, the Chicago skyline glittering with Christmas lights, and Salvatore thought about all the ways a life could change, all the ways a single choice could ripple outward, transforming everything it touched. He'd been ready to kill a 16-year-old girl to protect his secrets. Instead, he'd let her live. He'd let her into his world. He'd let her change him. Best decision he'd ever made. Because she'd given him something he thought he'd lost forever. She'd given him hope. She'd given him purpose. She'd given him a reason to be better than he was. And all it had cost her was $10, a torn jacket, and 30 minutes she couldn't spare. Grace, it turned out, was the most expensive gift in the world. And the most valuable. Before we end, I want you to think about something. Every single day you have a choice. When you see someone struggling, someone in pain, someone who's been made invisible by this world, you can walk away or you can stay. You can protect yourself or you can reach out. Aliyah was just 16 years old with nothing to her name, but she chose compassion. She chose to stay. And that one choice changed 3 lives forever, created a family from strangers, and proved that even the darkest hearts can find their way back to the light. What choice will you make? If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe to Dark Heart Mafia for more stories about redemption, transformation, and the power of grace. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you're never too lost to find your way home. Thank you for listening.